The NICU was supposed to be sacred. 24 weeks and 3 days. That's when my son Oliver decided to make his entrance into the world. 1 pound, 7 ounces of pure fight wrapped in wires and tubes. The doctors called him a micro-preemie. I called him my miracle. For 2 months, I lived in that hospital. The Ronald McDonald House became my second home, and the rhythmic beeping of Oliver's monitors became my lullaby. Oxygen saturation, heart rate, respiratory rate. I could read those numbers in my sleep. Actually, I did read them in my sleep, jolting awake every time they dipped even slightly. My husband Daniel worked double shifts to keep our insurance active. We'd already burned through our savings during the emergency C-section and the first month of care. But Oliver was gaining weight, breathing more on his own. The doctors were optimistic. Maybe another month. Dr. Patel had said. He's a fighter. That's when my parents decided to visit. They'd been absent for most of the crisis, too busy with my younger brother Connor's senior year of college. He was pre-law at Stanford, their golden child who could do no wrong. While I'd been sleeping in hospital chairs, they'd been attending his mock trial competitions and fraternity parent weekends. We're finally coming to meet our grandson, Mom announced over the phone, as if 2 months late was right on schedule. Connor has a big interview with a law firm tomorrow, so we'll swing by on our way. Swing by. Like the NICU was a drive-through. They arrived at 3 p.m., dressed like they were going to a country club. Mom wrinkled her nose at the hand sanitizer requirement. Dad kept checking his phone. Connor slouched and looking bored, his hair perfectly styled, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. So small, Mom murmured, peering at Oliver through the incubator. Are you sure he's normal? He's premature, Mom. He's perfect. He just needs time to grow. Connor barely glanced at Oliver before pulling out his phone. Shit, my phone's dying. Where can I charge this? Language, Mom chided gently, then looked around. He really does need to charge it, honey. His interview call is in an hour. There's a family lounge down the hall, I said, not taking my eyes off Oliver. He was having a good day, only on 30% oxygen, his little chest rising and falling steadily. That's too far, Connor whined. They'll have bad reception there. That's when Dad spotted it, the red outlet next to Oliver's incubator. The one with the bright yellow medical equipment only, do not unplug sticker. The one powering Oliver's oxygen monitor and pulse oximeter. Perfect, he said, reaching for the cords. Dad, no. I lunged forward, but he'd already unplugged the pulse oximeter to make room for Connor's iPhone charger. The alarms exploded instantly. Not just beeps, screaming, wailing electronic shrieks that brought nurses running. Oliver's oxygen monitor flickered and died as Dad fumbled with the cords, trying to plug Connor's phone in. What's the big deal? Mom said as nurses flooded in. He has an important call. Move ye. The charge nurse, Patricia, shoved past them to Oliver. His lips were turning dusky. Without the monitors, we couldn't see his oxygen levels, couldn't track his heart rate. She manually checked his pulse while another nurse rushed to reconnect everything. His O2 was dropping. Patricia barked. Get respiratory here now. I watched in horror as they increased his oxygen, worked over his tiny body. Those 2 minutes felt like 2 years. Finally, the monitors flickered back online. Oxygen at 82%. Too low. Heart rate elevated. My baby was struggling. Stop overreacting, Dad said to the nurses. Babies are tough. He's fine. Patricia turned on him with fury I'd never seen. Get out. Security is on their way. You can't kick us out, Mom protested. We're family. You just endangered a critical patient, Patricia snapped. You unplugged life support EQIP mate. Get out before I have you arrested. Connor, oblivious to the chaos, was complaining about his phone only being at 15%. Can't you plug it in for just 5 minutes? My interview. Out, I screamed, finding my voice. G-L-U-T. Security arrived and escorted them away, Mom huffing about rudeness, Dad muttering about oversensitive millennials, Connor still whining about his phone. Oliver spent the next 12 hours struggling. His oxygen requirements increased. He had 2 bradycardia episodes, his heart rate dropping dangerously low. Dr. Patel was called in at midnight. He was doing so well, she said softly. Sometimes these setbacks, we'll watch him closely. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Daniel flew back from a work trip, taking emergency leave. We sat vigil while Oliver fought to restabilize. 3 days. 3 days of progress lost because my parents thought a phone call mattered more than my baby's life. But here's what my parents didn't know. The NICU has cameras. Everything is recorded. Every second of their entitled negligence was captured in high definition. The hospital's legal department was very interested in the footage, especially when Patricia filed an incident report. They also didn't know that Daniel's best friend from college was now a medical malpractice attorney. Not that we were suing the hospital, they'd done everything right, but Jake knew other lawyers. Lawyers who specialize in things like criminal endangerment of a minor, reckless engagement, and interestingly, elder abuse law, because it turns out deliberately sabotaging medical equipment is a crime, regardless of the patient's age. While Oliver fought to recover, I made phone calls. The first was to Stanford Law School's ethics board. Did they know one of their star students had endangered an infant's life? That there was video evidence of them standing by while medical equipment was unplugged for his convenience. Law firms, I learned, were very interested in the moral character of their potential hires. The second was to my father's employer. He worked in hospital administration. Ironically enough, his boss was horrified to learn about the NICU incident. Liability concerns, you understand. The third was to Adult Protective Services, not for elder abuse, but to report 2 adults who clearly couldn't comprehend basic safety warnings. If they'd unplug life support equipment for a phone charger, what else might they do? Perhaps they needed evaluation. But the real revenge started with Connor's interview. See, my little brother had always bragged about his connections. How he was networking his way to the top. How his Instagram showed the perfect law student life. 50K followers watching his journey to legal stardom. What he didn't know was that I'd been screenshotting everything for years. Every post where he bragged about cheating on exams. Every story showing him drunk at parties while claiming to be studying. Every DM he'd sent to girls from his throwaway account, the one he didn't know I knew about. The legal community is small. Smaller than Connor realized. When partners at law firms started receiving anonymous packages with printed screenshots, with video of the NICU incident, with documentation of Connor Fitzgerald's true character, well, interviews started getting canceled. I don't understand, he texted me frantically. Every firm suddenly says they're going in a different direction. Even my safety schools rejected me. I didn't reply. I was too busy holding Oliver, who was finally stable enough for kangaroo care, skin-to-skin contact. His tiny body against my chest, his heart beating against mine. Alive. Despite everything. My parents tried to do damage control. Mom posted on Facebook about being kicked out for simply trying to help our son prepare for his future. The comments didn't go the way she expected. Turns out, NICU nurses have social media too, and they have opinions about people who unplug medical equipment. The post went viral for all the wrong reasons. Screenshots spread across parenting groups, medical professional forums, legal ethics discussions. #NSU Nightmare started trending. Connor's Instagram followers dropped by thousands daily as the story spread. Dad lost his job within a week. Hospital administration couldn't keep someone who'd shown such catastrophic judgment around medical equipment. Mom's book club politely suggested she take a break from attending. Their church small group suddenly had scheduling conflicts. Connor never did get that law firm job, or any law firm job. The legal community has a long memory, and the video of him standing there, annoyed about his phone battery while my baby struggled to breathe, became infamous in certain circles. He ended up taking a retail job, his Stanford law degree worthless in the face of his ruined reputation. But that wasn't the end. 3 months later, Oliver finally came home. 4 pounds of perfect baby boy, no longer needing oxygen support. The same week, I got a call from the district attorney's office. They reviewed the NICU footage and were pressing charges. Reckless endangerment of a minor. Interference with life support equipment. The list went on. My parents needed lawyers, expensive ones. They drained their retirement fund fighting the charges, but video evidence is hard to dispute. Dad got 6 months in jail, Mom got probation and community service. Connor wasn't charged, but he was named in every news story. His legal career was over before it began. They tried to contact me throughout the trial, begging for forgiveness, for me to speak on their behalf. I never responded. I was too busy with Oliver's physical therapy, his developmental checkups, building a life they'd almost stolen from us. The universe has a funny way of balancing things out, though. Connor's important interview, it had been with Morrison and Associates. 2 years later, I was at a pediatric follow-up appointment when I struck up a conversation with another mom in the waiting room. Her name was Jennifer Morrison. Her husband was the hiring partner at Morrison and Associates. Wait, she said, eyes widening as I told her about Oliver's NICU stay. Connor Fitzgerald is your brother? He's the phone charger guy? Apparently the story had become legendary in their firm. A cautionary tale told to new hires about the importance of character. They dodged a bullet by not hiring him, she said. Anyone who would endanger a baby for a phone charge couldn't be trusted with clients' lives and livelihoods. Your son saved us from a terrible mistake, she said, then paused. Is he doing okay now? I showed her a photo on my phone. Oliver at 2 years old, chubby-cheeked and laughing, chasing bubbles in our backyard. No trace of the fragile micro-preemie who'd fought so hard to survive. He's perfect, I said. The last I heard about my family was from a cousin. They'd moved to a small apartment in another state, trying to escape the notoriety. Connor worked at a cell phone store. Ironically appropriate. Mom and Dad lived on Social Security, their savings gone to legal fees. They'd sent one final letter through the cousin. Pages of justifications, blame shifting, claims that I'd ruined their lives over a simple mistake. I threw it away unopened. Oliver was taking his first steps, and I didn't want to miss a second of it. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the phantom beeping of NICU monitors. But then I peek into Oliver's room, watch his chest rise and fall naturally, no wires attached, no alarms needed. He's 4 now, starting pre-K in the fall. Smart as a whip, the teachers say. Full of energy, a miracle. His favorite toy? A doctor's kit. He likes to check everyone's heartbeat with his plastic stethoscope. Beep, 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 he says, mimicking the monitors he no longer remembers. All good. Yes, baby, all good. And when he asks about grandparents, why he doesn't have any like his friends, I tell him a simplified truth. Some people aren't safe to be around, sweetheart. So we made our own family instead. Our chosen family includes Patricia, the charge nurse who saved his life and became his honorary grandmother. Dr. Patel, who cried happy tears at his first birthday party. The other NICU families who understood what we'd been through. Real family doesn't unplug your life support. Real family guards it with their own lives. Connor's phone. I heard he finally got it charged. Cost him everything, but hey, at least he didn't miss that important call. Though somehow, I doubt it was worth it. The interview he was so desperate to take. He failed it anyway. Turns out, when you're rattled from causing a medical emergency, you don't interview well. The universe has a sense of humor like that. Me? I sleep soundly now, knowing my son is safe. Knowing the people who endanger him can never come near him again. Knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate planning or calculated destruction. Sometimes it's simply documenting the truth and letting consequences follow naturally. They had no idea what was coming next. Neither did I, honestly. I had no master plan that day in the NICU. Just a mother's fury and a baby fighting to breathe. Turns out, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.
What's this? Tastes awful. If I eat this, I'll feel sick. Megan chuckled, poking fun at the dish I made. I had tried it earlier and it seemed fine to me. Megan was just being picky. Andy and I had spent 3 days getting ready for this dinner. We were thrilled when we heard that our eldest son and his wife were coming over. Looking back, Andy and I felt silly for getting our hopes up. Megan's rude behavior and Benny just going along with her wore us out. We felt distant from them. Keeping a relationship with Megan felt impossible. Maybe we need to set some clear rules with her before I talk to Megan about it. Andy reached for the dish. I'm Katie, a 70-something homemaker living with Andy. We have a son, Benny. He graduated from a fancy college, got a job in a big company, and moved to Boston. 2 years back, he said he was getting hitched. The girl he introduced as his fiancée seemed nice. Benny said after the wedding, they'd move closer to us and wanted to bond, especially Megan. We were cool with it, but wondered about Megan. Benny assured us she was thrilled and wanted to get close to us. So we were on board with their plan. Around 2 months after tying the knot, Benny and Megan stuck to their word and relocated close to us. We were looking forward to bonding with Benny and getting to know Megan better, but reality hit us hard. Benny switched from his main office to a branch in our town, thinking it'd work out fine, but life wasn't as easy. The issue was Megan's spending habits. Even when Benny was earning well at headquarters, Megan had a habit of overspending. And when Benny's paycheck took a slight hit after the transfer, Megan's spending didn't slow down. It actually got worse. No matter how much Benny brought in, Megan used up most of it, leaving them in a tough spot. Ben was never one to fuss over his looks and lived a simple life. Benny was always hustling to earn more and rarely had time to visit us. Megan wasn't around much either, making their move nearby seem pointless. Even though they were close by, we hardly ever saw them. Benny was always caught up in work, and we were hesitant to directly reach out to Megan. It felt heartbreaking knowing Benny was going through a tough time. Despite his struggles, we tried to help by sending them $1,000 every month. We wished we could give more, but with Andy retired and us living on a pension, it was all we could manage. Every time we sent money, Benny would express his gratitude, but his voice sounded weary, which pained us deeply. We wanted to support him as his parents, so we decided to help in any small way we could. On our days off, we'd spend time with him, take him shopping, and treat him to a meal. When Benny and Megan were away, we cleaned their house for them. We knew these gestures couldn't solve all of Benny's problems, but doing something felt better than doing nothing. 2 years went by, and Benny's situation didn't improve. Seeing him struggle, we felt compelled to do something. We came up with a plan to invite Benny and Megan over for a meal. Knowing Megan might not accept a simple dinner invitation, we decided to go all out and prepare a lavish feast to tempt them. When I suggested this to Andy, he hesitated because he wasn't confident in his cooking skills, but he took the initiative and even went out to buy the ingredients. To our delight, the promise of a feast did the trick, and both Benny and Megan agreed to come over for 3 days and nights. Andy and I busied ourselves with preparing the meal while Benny and Megan showed up at our doorstep in the afternoon. They appeared to unwind, shedding the stresses of their daily lives. Benny seemed particularly worn out, prompting us to offer him our bedroom to rest. As Benny headed off to rest, Megan, seemingly unaware of our cooking efforts, lounged on the sofa, engrossed in the TV. Suddenly, she strolled into the kitchen and bluntly questioned, "Why are you putting in so much effort?" Taken aback by her abrupt inquiry, we were unable to respond before she continued, "Seriously, what's the point? Are you enjoying this? If you have spare time, why not find work and make some money? Retirement must be tough, huh?" Her mocking laughter filled the room. I stepped forward. "Isn't it impolite to speak like that when you're invited for a meal? Where's your respect for your in-laws?" A little decency wouldn't hurt. Megan's face flushed red. "Are you trying to pick a fight with me? Do you think your words don't sting?" I had no intention of starting a confrontation. I simply wanted her to exhibit basic manners. However, seeing her twist my words and become defensive left me speechless. Megan, apparently satisfied with her outburst, returned to the living room. Andy looked dismayed, but we had dinner preparations to focus on, so we tried to regroup. Suddenly, from the hallway, we heard Megan's voice escalating. "Why are you always against me? Can't you support me just once? I'm your wife." Alarmed, we hurried out to see what was going on. Megan stood by the bedroom door, and Benny, who should have been resting, was there too. "Why won't you stand by me? Why are you siding with your parents?" Megan shouted, clutching Benny's shirt. Sensing the situation spiraling out of control, we intervened. "Let's calm down. What's happening here?" Andy held Megan back, while I approached Benny to understand what was going on. Weary, Benny recounted what had occurred. He had been trying to get some rest in the bedroom after a long day at work, but was startled awake by a slamming door. Upon investigating, he found Megan in a state of fury. She vented about feeling harassed and labeled me as the problem. Benny was bewildered and overwhelmed. In her heightened emotions, Megan misinterpreted Benny's silence as taking our side, and she began questioning his loyalty as her husband. Benny, still groggy from sleep, struggled to comprehend the situation and felt powerless. Megan's anger only escalated upon seeing Benny's confusion, leaving him caught in the middle and visibly drained. I confronted Megan, saying, "It's not okay to wake up and yell at your exhausted husband. Do you understand how strange you're acting?" Megan, perhaps feeling trapped, mumbled a half-hearted apology, but her eyes showed no remorse. Despite the tension, we gathered around the table for dinner. We had prepared ribeye steaks and fresh seafood from the local market, trying to offer the best. Benny seemed to appreciate it, but Megan, glancing at the spread, made a sarcastic remark, "Just because you serve this doesn't mean I'll overlook the harassment." It was disheartening to hear after all our efforts. Benny tried to lighten the mood with different topics, but Megan shut down each attempt with icy comments. I told her, "You need to change your attitude," but she simply ignored me. The TV was off, so I knew she heard me. Honestly, I felt dejected realizing that she deliberately ignored me. Feeling discouraged, Andy tried to comfort me. We managed to say grace before the meal, but after Megan tasted a dish, she exclaimed, "What's this disgusting mess? I'll get sick from eating this." She laughed mockingly, leaving me speechless at her cruelty. But she didn't stop there. "You're deliberately trying to make me sick with this food, aren't you? Going to such extremes just to torment me. You're truly wicked, mother-in-law." Her words dripped with disdain, causing my hands to tremble with anger. Why must we endure this? How can Megan treat others so cruelly? Seeing Benny so exhausted, why doesn't she feel any inclination to help? Why does she brush off our kindness? I had so much I wanted to express to Megan, but the right words eluded me. However, I couldn't let her behavior continue unchecked. Sensing my frustration, Andy reached for his plate. I've remained silent until now, but I've reached my limit. Andy's usually calm demeanor transformed into something intimidating when he was angry. It had been a long time since I'd seen him so upset. With his anger still simmering, Andy declared, "I'm severing ties with you. Leave immediately." Andy's voice boomed as he confronted Megan. Even Megan appeared startled, her face paling. "What's this, father-in-law? How could you say such things to your daughter-in-law? Do you find joy in causing trouble? I never imagined you, father-in-law, would stoop so low," she shot back, tears welling in her eyes. But despite Megan's protests, Andy stood firm. "I don't care if you call it harassment. I can't consider you family anymore. Leave." Andy's words made Megan realize the severity of the situation. "Fine, I'll go. From now on, I want nothing to do with you or mother-in-law. You'll regret this," she declared, packing her belongings and departing. I asked Benny if he wanted to go after her, but he seemed resigned. "It doesn't matter," he muttered, focusing on his meal. So we opted to let her go, fearing another confrontation if Benny followed her home. We decided he would stay the night. Benny appeared relieved, preferring not to face Megan at that moment. For the first time in ages, we enjoyed some genuine family time. We swapped stories, aired grievances about Megan, and even camped out in the living room, reminiscing about old times. The cramped couch reminded me how much Benny had grown. However, our peace was short-lived. The next morning, the doorbell rang, jolting us awake. As anticipated, it was Megan. Scanning the room, I confirmed it was indeed Megan at the door. As Benny, Andy, and I debated our next move, the door was pounded loudly. "Mother-in-law, I know you're in there. Where's Benny?" "He's here, isn't he? Let him out." Megan's words filled me with dread. Handing Benny over to her now could only make things worse. So we agreed to let Megan in and have a conversation. As soon as the door opened, Megan barged in, fixing me with a hostile glare. "You think you can steal someone's husband? That's outrageous," she yelled, her anger palpable. But her accusations no longer affected me. "That's a harsh way to put it. We simply offer him a place to stay because of the way you've been treating him. He made the choice, not me. Blaming me is unfair, don't you think?" Megan's face blushed crimson. "You're the worst mother-in-law and father-in-law for allowing this behavior. Stay away from us forever." Her words held no sway over us. Andy and I were prepared to sever ties with Megan. Tension hung thick in the air until Benny's words changed everything. I can't do this anymore. Let's get a divorce. Benny's words stunned Megan, her face still flushed with anger. Divorce? Seriously? You're choosing your parents over me? Her tone softened, and she pleaded with Benny, her eyes filled with desperation. But Benny stood firm, a wife who neglects her responsibilities and parties constantly versus my parents, who've always been there for me. The choice is obvious. Megan, still unconvinced, argued, they're just manipulating you. Once they have you, they'll abandon you too. Baseless accusations. We never abandoned Benny, but Megan, eager to portray us as villains, hysterically shouted, "You're trying to take Benny away from me. Do you hate me that much?" At this point, it was unclear how to calm her down. Then, unexpectedly, Benny slapped Megan across the face. The room fell silent, shocked. Megan struggled to comprehend what had just happened. You've not only been a burden to me, but also to my parents. Aren't you ashamed? I hoped you'd come to your senses, but I was wrong. Please don't say such things. I love you, please reconsider. My decision is final. From now on, we're strangers. Don't ever call yourself my wife again. Megan looked defeated. No one reached out to her. Eventually, she left, realizing there was no point in arguing. In the following days, Benny stayed with us as he initiated the divorce proceedings, which were recently finalized. Megan was hesitant to sign the papers, so they had to involve lawyers. Fortunately, Benny had evidence of Megan's extravagant spending habits, which helped him secure the divorce. He also sought compensation in court. Due to his deteriorating health from stress and overwork, Benny was unfortunately diagnosed with a lifestyle-related illness. Megan's parents eventually paid the settlement, leaving Benny indebted to them. Megan now works tirelessly day and night to repay them. After the divorce, Benny continued to reside with us for some time. We wanted to give him a reprieve, especially considering all he had endured. Today, Benny has regained his footing and is working diligently as ever. While life may present him with more challenges, we will always be there for him as his parents, offering our unwavering support in every possible way. I vividly recall the day I first encountered Alex as though it unfolded just yesterday. I found myself nestled in a quaint dive cafe, nursing the most affordable cup of coffee available, attempting to untangle the web of my scattered thoughts and aspirations. That's when he strolled in, akin to a scene plucked from a cinematic masterpiece, albeit devoid of any dramatic lighting or accompanying melodies. Instead, the atmosphere was defined by the gentle jingle of the doorbell and the lingering aroma of stale coffee mingled with his distinct aftershave. "Is the seat taken?" he inquired, gesturing towards the empty chair opposite me with a smile capable of inducing instant infatuation. "It looks free to me," I responded, striving for an air of nonchalance, despite the flurry of excitement his unexpected presence stirred within me. As conversation ensued, it became increasingly apparent that we shared a kinship that transcended mere acquaintance. Our interests aligned seamlessly, from indulging in mindless television series to engaging in spirited debates over preferred pizza toppings. Pineapple, anyone? Fast forward, and we transitioned from casual encounters to a genuine relationship that felt as though it had spanned lifetimes. Before we knew it, discussions of matrimony were underway. Yet, amidst the burgeoning romance, the specter of drama loomed. Alex's parents, a force to be reckoned with, greeted me with thinly veiled scrutiny upon our initial encounter. Their smiles, though ostensibly welcoming, betrayed an underlying assessment of my worthiness. "So, you're the girl Alex can't stop talking about," his mother remarked, her tone tinged with a coldness that sent shivers down my spine. "Guilty as charged," I retorted, masking any semblance of insecurity. However, their insistence on a prenuptial agreement struck a discordant note. While I harbored no ulterior motives, the notion of such a contract felt inherently distrustful. "I'll sign your prenup," I acquiesced, "but under one condition. If infidelity rears its ugly head, the transgressor foots the bill, $100,000. Alex's reaction mirrored a mixture of disbelief and discomfort. Yet I remained resolute. Past experiences had taught me the value of safeguarding against betrayal. We believed this compromise would quell any familial objections, but fate had other plans. One evening, nestled together on our beloved, albeit dilapidated couch, a symbol of our shared history, we found ourselves dreaming of a future beyond our means. Italy beckoned, its allure irresistible despite our financial constraints. Think about it, Alex. I enthused, envisioning the culinary delights and artistic wonders awaiting us. However, reality reared its pragmatic head. Our bank account screams backyard camping, rather than romantic Venetian getaway, he quipped, punctuating his words with a playful squeeze. Undeterred, I proposed a strategy of thrift and sacrifice, teasingly targeting his beloved video games as potential casualties. Our banter echoed the essence of our relationship. Dreamers grounded in the practicalities of everyday life. In the midst of mundane chores and playful banter, the topic of starting a family surfaced, a prospect both exhilarating and daunting. Emily, we need to talk about starting a family, Alex broached, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The weight of the conversation hung in the air as we navigated the uncertain terrain of parenthood, finding solace in the unwavering support of one another. How daunting could it be? I chuckled, a blend of nerves and affection coloring my laughter. Famous last words, babe. That's how it was with us. No matter the challenge, we tackled it hand in hand, even as Alex's mother began dropping not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren at every opportunity. We maintained our united front. Emily, darling, when will you give me some grandbabies? Time isn't standing still, you know. She'd remark, her tone sugary, but her message anything but. I'd plaster on a smile, biting back retorts, and Alex would interject, Mom, give it a rest, will you? These things take time. Yet, as the months passed, pressure mounted, not just from his mother, but from within. Our desire for a family clashed with the harsh reality of infertility. Ever since Judy, his mother, discovered her newfound hobby of tormenting me, our home transformed into a battleground, her weapon of choice a razor-sharp tongue. One Sunday lunch, as we gathered for what should have been a tranquil meal, Judy barged in uninvited, her presence casting a shadow over the room. Well, isn't this quaint? She began, dripping with sarcasm, her gaze sweeping over our modest spread. Emily, dear, I can see you've been slaving away in the kitchen all morning, she remarked, a smirk dancing on her lips. Attempting to diffuse the tension, I offered a feeble smile, urging her to take a seat. But Judy wasted no time before launching into her assault. You know, Emily, she began, her voice laced with condescension. Mrs. Henderson's grandson was just born. It got me thinking, when are you and Alex going to give me some good news? Heat flooded my cheeks, a mixture of humiliation and indignation burning within me. I sought solace in Alex's gaze, only to find him engrossed in his plate, a feeble attempt at avoidance. Mom, come on, he muttered weakly. But his lackluster defense only fueled Judy's relentless tirade. Alex, dear, I don't mean to be cruel, Judy continued. But you're not running a charity here. You work hard for your money. Why waste it on Emily if she can't even fulfill her basic duties as a wife? A cleaning service and a cook would be far more efficient, don't you think? Unable to contain my frustration any longer, I spoke up. Judy, I am trying my best here. It's not like I don't want to have kids. And as for the house and my cooking, well, I didn't realize marriage was a service contract. But my words fell on deaf ears. Judy remained steadfast in her judgment, her criticisms cutting deeper with each passing day. She scrutinized every corner of our home, disparaging my appearance and undermining my role as a wife. With each visit, her comments grew sharper, her disapproval more pronounced. Is that what you're wearing? She'd sneer. A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Alex is always exhausted. He has to come home to this. I attempted to defend myself, to reason with her, but it was futile. Judy had made up her mind, and nothing could sway her perception. And in that moment, the realization dawned upon me. I was fighting this battle alone. No matter what I said or did, Alex's stance, or lack thereof, remained the most painful blow. Each night, after Judy's departure, we'd engage in heated arguments. "Why won't you stand up for me, Alex? She's walking all over us, and you're just letting her," I'd plead. "Emily, she's old, set in her ways," he'd respond. "What do you want me to do? Kick my own mom out?" But it was clear this was more than just about Judy's disapproval. It was about us, our marriage, and whether we were strong enough to stand together or succumb to Judy's criticisms. As the days turned into weeks, I realized this wasn't merely a phase. It was a full-blown siege. If we didn't act soon, there might not be anything left to salvage. The strain extended beyond the home front. Alex himself began behaving oddly. It wasn't the typical stress from work. It was something deeper, something that twisted my stomach into knots. It began with the phone calls. Alex, who had always been transparent, suddenly started stepping out of the room every time he received a call, always from the same caller ID, John from work. One evening, trying to keep my voice casual, I asked, "Who's John from work?" Alex flinched, a telltale sign of unease. "Oh, just a new guy at the office. Lots of questions, you know," he replied, but his evasiveness only fueled my suspicions. Then there was his sudden interest in his appearance. Gone were the days of graphic tees and worn-out jeans. Now it was all crisp shirts, slacks, and cologne. "Since when did you care about smelling like a department store?" I teased. "Just felt like changing things up. No harm in that, right?" He replied a bit too quickly. The late nights at work became a regular occurrence. "Another long one, babe." He'd text, promising he wouldn't be late. But the clock would tick well past midnight before I heard his keys in the door. Try as I might, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That's when I made the decision to hire a private detective. It felt like something out of a bad TV show, but I needed to know for sure. The evidence arrived in a plain brown envelope. Photos of Alex with another woman, their intimacy undeniable, their conversations captured in a recording, leaving no room for doubt. Sitting there, the evidence spread out before me. I felt a cold realization settle in. This was it, the proof that could anchor me in a stormy divorce, should it come to that. But I kept it all a secret, a painful burden I chose to carry alone. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I needed a plan, a way to navigate the wreckage of our marriage with my dignity intact. The following days were a blur. Alex continued his charade, and I played along, the perfect wife with a smile plastered on my face and a heart breaking silently. But then, one day, as I passed by Alex's office, their voices caught my attention. Alex and Judy discussing me. And what I heard changed everything. I stood there, rooted to the spot, a mix of shock and anger boiling inside me. They were planning my exit from this family as casually as one would plan a grocery list. The hurt ran deep, but it sparked something else in me. A burning desire for revenge. They thought they could use me, discard me at their convenience. I'd show them I wasn't just some pawn in their twisted game. A few days later, during a family dinner that felt more like a farce than a meal, Judy brought up her upcoming birthday with the same smirk I had come to despise. "So, Emily dear, what are you planning for my birthday? Something special, I hope?" she inquired, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I met her gaze, my face a mask of calm. "Actually, Judy, I was thinking of throwing you a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. A night you won't forget," I replied. Her eyes lit up with greed, and she exchanged a quick, satisfied look with Alex. They thought they had me cornered, but little did they know I was already 2 steps ahead. "Emily, that sounds delightful. Just close family, you know, keep it intimate," Judy insisted, her voice saccharine. "Of course, Judy. It'll be our pleasure," I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Judy's 70th birthday felt like a slow march towards D-Day. Every smirk from her, every indifferent shrug from Alex fueled my resolve. The plan was simple yet bold. Host a lavish dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant under the guise of a loving gesture, then drop the bombshell. But like any bit plot, the devil was in the details. The tension at home was palpable the night before the party. Alex, oblivious to the storm brewing, was casually lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Everything's set for tomorrow?" he asked, not looking up. "Oh, you could say that," I replied, my tone belying the turmoil inside. The day arrived, and as guests filled the opulent dining room reserved for Judy's celebration, the air crackled with anticipation. My heart raced, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline of what was about to unfold. As we all settled in, the meal proceeded with forced mirth. Laughs were shared, stories exchanged, and then, as the dessert plates were cleared away, the waiter approached with the final act of the evening, the bill. Without missing a beat, I handed over my card, the gesture unnoticed by most. It was then Alex, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, decided to drop his bombshell. "Emily, I think it's time everyone knew. I'm tired of this of us. I want a divorce," he declared. The words hung in the air, a toxic cloud suffocating all other noise in the room. Before I could even process the full weight of his statement, Judy piped up, her voice sharp and unforgiving. "Well then, since that's out in the open, I think it's best you leave, Emily. We're celebrating family tonight, and well, you're no longer part of it." The room went deadly silent. Every eye was on me, waiting to see how I'd crumble. But I didn't. With a calm I didn't feel, I stood, nodded, and walked out without a word. The cool night air hit me like a slap as I made my way home. By the time I reached his apartment, a plan formed. I packed my essentials, the numbness giving way to a cold resolve. This was it, the end of one life and the start of another. As I zipped the last suitcase, my phone started buzzing, a relentless, insistent vibration that I initially ignored. But curiosity got the better of me. Judy's voice screeched from the other end, demanding I fix the payment issue. The sweet irony of it all. In my preparations for the inevitable, I had secured my exit strategy. I stood there, rooted to the spot, a mix of shock and anger boiling inside me. They were planning my exit from this family as casually as one would plan a grocery list. The hurt ran deep, but it sparked something else in me, a burning desire for revenge. They thought they could use me, discard me at their convenience. I'd show them I wasn't just some pawn in their twisted game. A few days later, during a family dinner that felt more like a farce than a meal, Judy brought up her upcoming birthday with her trademark smirk. "So, Emily dear, what are you planning for my birthday? Something special, I hope," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Actually, Judy, I was thinking of throwing you a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. A night you won't forget," I replied, meeting her gaze with a mask of calm. Her eyes lit up with greed, and she exchanged a quick, satisfied look with Alex. They thought they had me cornered, but little did they know I was already 2 steps ahead. "Oh, Emily, that sounds so delightful." "Just close family, keep it intimate," Judy chimed in, her voice oozing fake sweetness. "Of course, Judy. It'll be our pleasure," I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Judy's 70th birthday felt like a slow march towards D-Day. Every smirk from her, every indifferent shrug from Alex fueled my resolve. The plan was simple yet bold. Host a lavish dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant under the guise of a loving gesture, then drop the bombshell. But like any good plot, the devil was in the details. The tension at home the night before the party was palpable. Alex, oblivious to the storm brewing, was casually lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Everything's set for tomorrow?" he asked, not looking up. "Oh, you could say that," I replied, my tone belying the turmoil inside. The day arrived, and as guests started to fill the opulent dining room reserved for Judy's celebration, the air was thick with anticipation. My heart raced, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline of what was about to unfold. Judy, ever the queen bee, basked in the attention, lavishing in the luxury of her surroundings. "Oh, Emily, you outdone yourself. This place is exquisite," she exclaimed, her voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. As we all settled in and the meal proceeded with forced mirth, laughs were shared, Stories exchanged. Then, as the dessert plates were cleared away, the waiter approached with the final act of the evening, the bill. He leaned in discreetly, informing us the dinner cost was $33,000. Without missing a beat, I handed over my card, the gesture unnoticed by most. It was then Alex, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, decided to drop his bombshell. Emily, I think it's time everyone knew. I'm tired of this of us. I want a divorce, he announced, his words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. Judy wasted no time in adding her poison. Well, since that's out in the open, I think it's best you leave, Emily. We're celebrating family tonight, and well, you're no longer part of it. The room went deadly silent, every eye on me, waiting to see how I'd crumble. But I didn't. With a calm I didn't feel, I stood, nodded, and walked out without a word. The cool night air hit me like a slap as I made my way home. The finality of everything that had happened washed over me in waves. By the time I reached what used to be our shared home for the last time, a plan had formed. As I stepped through the door, the air crackled with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Alex and Judy were there, looking like they'd been arguing. You've got some nerve showing up here after last night. Alex spat out, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. Ungrateful wretch. You've embarrassed us in front of the whole city. Judy added, her voice sharp and unforgiving. But my mind was made up. I tossed the divorce papers on the table, the photos of Alex's infidelity on top. You should be more concerned with this, I said, my tone steady. The color drained from Alex's face as he picked up the photos, his mother peering over his shoulder. Their outrage turned to shock, then to panic as they realized the extent of what I had. And let's not forget the prenup, shall we? I continued, my voice cold, final. You cheat, you pay. $100,000 to be exact. Judy's face twisted into a snarl. You wouldn't dare. You can't do this to us. Oh, but I can, and I will, I replied, my tone unwavering. The begging turned to pleading, their words a desperate scramble to salvage what they could. But my mind was made up. In the end, Alex had no choice but to borrow the money from his parents to pay me. As I left that house for the last time, check in hand, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. After everything, I used the payout from Alex to put a down payment on a small but cozy place of my own. Life's quieter now, and I like it that way. Every once in a while, the grapevine tosses a juicy bit my way about Alex and Judy. But these days, it's just another piece of someone else's story. Life's simpler, quieter, and infinitely sweeter on this side of chaos. I'm Tiffany. I worked full-time before I got married. But the truth is that company had terrible places to work. I had nearly 90 hours of extra work that wasn't paid. Even though I was going to be married, I thought about working, but I quit because of health problems. I now follow a healthy routine and go to bed and wake up at normal times. After I quit, my health got a lot better. My husband, Theo, didn't disagree with my choice to quit. He seems to love that I'm home doing jobs and waiting for him to get home from work. Whenever we were first married, he would say, I'm so lucky to have a wife who welcomes me home. That thought had become a given after 5 years, which was to be expected. Things still go wrong every so often. When we visit, my mother-in-law, Sarah, who used to be nice, always asks, when will you give me a grandchild? She always says it when Theo isn't there. Hearing this over and over again for years has caused me a lot of stress. Honestly, the only reason I have any desire to see her is to avoid her company, as she makes me feel awful. John is my father-in-law. He is quiet, nice, and doesn't get in the way. The strange thing is that Theo says kids are a pain and cost a lot. But when his folks find out, he acts like it doesn't matter to him. I once told him, if you don't want kids, tell your parents. He laughed it off and said, isn't that a conversation for a woman? When things need to be done right, he avoids duty by sticking to his own ethics. Thus, in the eyes of his mother, I am the wife who is unable to conceive, whereas he prefers the husband who is able to do so. Finally, I tried to be clear by saying, Theo doesn't want kids. But Sarah, who is sure I can't get pregnant, said, "You were just trying to blame someone else." John tells Sarah not to get in the way of our decisions sometimes, but she doesn't listen. Theo finally doesn't want to deal with the stress of being a parent, but he also doesn't want to make his mom mad either. It's clear that he always wants to make his mom happy. I really didn't think he'd be this unstable. He would likely save his mother before me if the ship was sinking. Yes, he's a bit old-fashioned, but at least you're not living with them, my mom says on a call during the week in the afternoon. I've talked to my mom a lot about Theo and Sarah over the past year. My mom is quiet, but she makes sense. She listens slowly and often makes me feel better. At times, I experience guilt due to my belief that a wife ought not to disclose her troubled marriage to her parents. However, my mother is the only one who truly understands this since Theo is absent. I'm sorry for always talking about this. I know you have your struggles too. It's okay. Mom's fine now. The hospital tests showed nothing wrong. In fact, she just got a pacemaker and had surgery on her heart 3 months ago. I was scared when I learned she was going to have surgery, but she laughed it off. I remember telling my husband about it, and he said, "Pacemakers are pretty common these days. It's not that big of a deal." But when his own mother hurt her ankle, he freaked out and told me he'd help out without being asked first. Talk about having two sets of rules. Putting a bandage on an ankle is not nearly as important as having surgery. I always whine on the phone, and because I live so far away, I don't get to see my family very often. This time, I'm going to surprise my mom on her birthday with a trip with my dad because I haven't been the best daughter to them in the past. I'm home. Dinner's ready. My husband always says as he sits down to eat. No longer does he really say anything about the food, but I was excited about the plan my dad and I made. Actually, my mom's birthday is coming up. "Oh," he said after pausing to eat his steak and taking a puzzled look at me. "I was thinking of booking a hotel in Lake Tahoe and taking a trip there." Really? He didn't seem very interested. The hotel is pretty fancy, and a lot of people like it here. This person helped me a lot. His eyes lit up when he heard the word luxury. A fancy hotel. "We're going to have different rooms from your parents, right?" "Of course we are. They're both going to be there, so why don't we go see some sights in Lake Tahoe together?" "Sure." Oh well, at least he seems interested. Since he spends most of his time with his parents, he shouldn't mind going on trips with mine every once in a while. Lucky for me, my parents are taking care of everything this time, so I don't have to plan the date or the hotel. It's like I let them handle everything. "Where are you going?" "I need to ask for time off." While I was packing in the bedroom, my husband threw the question over his shoulder. "Did I not tell you? The 23rd and 24th are the dates." "Oh, right." When I turned around, I saw him playing around with his phone without thinking. "It's all the gifts for Sarah that were forgotten, among other things." Of course, today had something to do with my choice. Out of the blue, my angry mother-in-law yelled, "A woman like you who doesn't work or even have kids should be thankful just to be married." I didn't feel scared when I realized I could also cut ties with her. "Look, don't put me down. Also, just so you know, it was your son who didn't want kids because he thought being a parent would be hard." He probably never said that though. My wife's mother just sat down shocked. She had always thought it was my fault, but she didn't know that her son had made the choice all along. So my father-in-law took my husband and mother-in-law away, and I went on a family trip with my folks. "You had quite the eventful birthday, didn't you?" My mom said, "I'm sorry," in her normal happy voice. "As long as you are happy, that's all that matters." But I had no idea he was that bad. I should have stopped by earlier to see how things were going. I no longer give a damn about it, as I have been living that way for an extended period of time. It was a wake-up call. My dad was pretty quiet, but there was a hint of happiness on his face. After that, my husband and I got a divorce, but it looks like his relationship with his mom has gotten worse. He was never kind, and I was always in charge of everything except his job. It was said that his room turned into a garbage dump without me there. It looks like my ex-mother-in-law cleans up for him often. But she's about to lose it because she fights a lot with her son, who she used to love. The cops were called because their fight got so bad. My ex-father-in-law says she did this to herself by giving their son too many good things. It's interesting that on the day of the hotel incident, my ex-mother-in-law was friendly with the head of a neighborhood organization. Was also taking a break there. He saw all of her crazy behavior. People in her community no longer value her because she is seen as the mother of the husband who forced his wife to leave him. For myself, I landed a job at the hotel that my uncle owns. He hired me without telling anyone that I'm related to the owner because he was looking for work after his split. I'm now learning from staff members who have more experience. The hotel job takes careful attention. There are still things I haven't learned in times when I've been told I was wrong. But it's a big change from the housework I used to do that no one noticed. Everything that is done here is praised. He looked truly angry. After I get married, my parents should usually come first. Tell your parents to go home. What? That's correct. From now on, it's just the two of us and our son. My mother-in-law said without missing a beat. I was really hurt. I never thought he would be this way. Where did my kind husband go after we got married? Then a big man in a suit quickly came up to us. Is there a problem? My mother-in-law started talking very quickly before he could finish. Get rid of these people. We'll use their last few nights. I'm sorry, but we can't do that. She snapped. Why not? They have already paid, and we have them booked until the day after tomorrow. She glared at me in anger. She is married to my son. What my son's wife and her parents own is pretty much ours. Just a nod from my husband. Every feeling I had at that moment just blew up when I saw that scene. The man said he was sorry, but they couldn't do that. She told him, first of all, you're letting such ugly people stay here. Will it make the hotel look bad? My husband started to blame me. I chose to go behind my husband's back and tell him the truth. You know, this place is my father's family home. My husband and mother-in-law looked at me with wide eyes. The man in the suit is my father's younger brother, which means he is my uncle. My uncle began to talk in a strong but humble way. I'm a lot younger than my brother. People in our family were busy with their hotel business at the time. He looked after me like a parent. He gave me everything I have now. When my dad heard this, he got upset and said, I was so happy when I heard you were staying here because I thought I could finally repay his kindness. You think you can stay for free because it's the family of your son's wife. I could hear my wife's mother groaning. We have rooms that cost between 450 and 1,800 rupees per night. If you're interested, please go to the front desk. Keep the price the same. Both my husband and his mother were shocked. What should we do? There's no other hotel that we know of. What do you think I'll say? My father-in-law let out a deep sigh as he watched them. This is karma for always taking credit for Tiffany's achievements and trying to impress your mother with them. My husband didn't seem to know what to say. I'm really sorry, everyone. He began to say, I never thought my son would do something like this. No, wait, John, I said right away. I also feel sorry for my father-in-law. His son asked him to go to the hotel, but he found out he had been. My mother-in-law seemed to have learned even more, but all of a sudden she got it. Wait, can't you give us a discount since it's a family-run hotel? After all, we're family. How can she have no shame? Has she forgotten everything she did? But my uncle said in a cool voice, I don't think of someone as family who insults my loved ones. What he said made me understand something. It was rude of my husband and mother-in-law to treat me that way all along. I was given all the hard jobs to do. They took any praise they could get. What did I do for them? They took advantage of me and put me down. There would have been no trip if they had even a little thought about my family. You've always looked down on me, haven't you? I looked at my husband, who hung his head and didn't say anything. You thought that if you pushed hard enough, my parents would let this go. That's awful. I didn't have the money to stay at that fancy hotel. I just wanted to make people like me. He glared at me with sadness in his face. My husband's father came up to me and looked upset. Doesn't this sound like you? Who are you trying to protect the most right now, huh? Your mother, who you always want to look good in front of. My husband stood still and had a serious look on his face. Listen, you are married, my father-in-law said next. Protecting your wife should be your top concern, not making your mom proud. Still, Hugh, even though my husband turned away, I saw the look on his face. No matter what, he will always pick his mother. I got up the courage to speak out. John, thanks for everything you've done for me so far. You've helped me more than he ever did. He and I used to live together, but I can't do it anymore. My husband was shocked and looked up. Let's get a divorce. It made me feel so free to say the word divorce out loud. Right, I've always wanted to divorce him. Are you serious? From behind, I could hear my mom's voice. I said yes. Yes, I've been thinking about it for a while now. My husband quickly said, hold on, I'll say sorry for what happened this time. It's not just about this time. He doesn't really pay attention to me or my family, so I've told him about this trip before. But when he thought about it, his lack of response was better than his previous emotions. We drove to the fancy hotel in Lake Tahoe on the day of the trip. My parents had come the night before. We were going to explore Lake Tahoe with them today and have dinner at the hotel. They haven't been seen in a while. Maybe since my mom had surgery. The two of them are retired and don't normally blow up, so this trip should be fun. I read a Lake Tahoe vacation magazine while sitting in the passenger seat. After I checked in, I was going to call my parents to the office, but they were already in the parking lot, and Sarah was standing next to them. My husband quickly pulled over, parked the car, and ran over to them. What the heck is going on? I was sure that I had explained the plan well. It didn't take me long to get out of the passenger seat and follow. What's going on there? While I was upset, my husband started talking to my parents in a smooth way. You knew about a great hotel, right? From tomorrow on, we're going to enjoy it with my parents. You paid for the stay already, right? Both of my parents were shocked. Of course they would be. This wasn't even supposed to happen. As bold as ever, my mother-in-law said, you know a lot of good hotels. Take care of it for us, okay? Let's go to Alaska next time. What are you saying? My father-in-law, on the other hand, asked my husband, didn't you invite us on this trip? He seemed to have the same lack of knowledge as we did. You said you pay for it. I could feel my blood rush to my head when I heard that. Wait a second. My parents booked this hotel for us. Why do you just stare you ready to invite yours? What's the big deal? Asked my mother-in-law. You can't keep this nice hotel all to yourself. You should care more about the parents of your husband. Because I don't get to see my parents as often as John and Sarah, I wanted to take them on a fancy trip. Also, my mom's birthday is today. With a really serious look, my mother-in-law looked at me from head to toe. You've never given me a present for my birthday. Such clear favoritism? You did send Sarah her favorite flowers recently, didn't you? That came from your son. Don't take credit for what other people do. When I looked at my husband, he tried to avoid my eyes. While we were married, I chose and gave all of the gifts. He never seemed interested in doing it. So you kept silent about the gift for Sarah. He said something terrible when he looked into my husband's eyes. I'm going to buy them with your money. It's the same as if I had chosen and bought them myself.
In a quiet room, an old clock ticked loudly. My husband John was glued to the TV, ignoring me completely. I felt fed up with all the problems we'd had over the years. John broke the silence, sneering at me. I told him firmly, I'm leaving. He mocked me, saying I couldn't survive without him. But his words only made me more determined. I couldn't take his neglect and his mom's meddling anymore. It was time to leave and take charge of my life. I can handle it, I said confidently, standing up. Even though I was nervous about what was next, I felt strong. John's mom, who had been living with us for a while, walked in and saw my packed bags. Leaving already? She sneered, thinking I couldn't handle their family issues. I ignored her and grabbed my bags, heading for the door. John just sat there, saying, You'll be back. You can't do this alone. As I stepped out of the house, a feeling of freedom washed over me. The evening air was refreshing, lifting my spirits. I didn't know where I was going, but for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. For 2 decades, I'd been playing the role of John's obedient wife, feeling more like a convenience than a partner. My son, Elias, was the only source of happiness, but even he couldn't fill the void in my heart. John's mom made things worse with her constant criticism and manipulation. Finding a small, peaceful apartment was a relief. It became my safe space where I could think without judgment. I ignored calls and messages from John and his mom, who begged and threatened me. I was determined to stand my ground and move forward. My coworkers at the library, where I'd worked for a long time, supported me. They had seen how I'd been struggling and were happy to see me finding my strength again. Surrounded by books and understanding friends, I started to feel like myself again and began to believe in a brighter future. While I was settling into my new life, Elias called me, sounding worried. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked. I reassured him, feeling calm for the first time in years. "Yes, Elias, I'm doing better than ever." But then he told me about the problems at home. My decision to leave hadn't gone down well. John had turned to drinking, and his mom wouldn't stop blaming me for leaving. I pushed away the guilt, reminding myself that they needed to respect my decisions. Elias hesitated but then expressed his support for me prioritizing my happiness. Ending the call, I realized this was just the beginning of proving myself to John and his mother, who had underestimated me for too long. It was time they saw I wasn't the obedient woman they thought I was. My journey to self-discovery and independence had only just begun. In my quiet new home, I reflected on the 28 years with John. What started as a promising relationship had soured over time. John's charm and our shared dreams once seemed perfect, but he became more focused on himself, neglecting our family. Elias's birth didn't bring us closer, it highlighted our growing distance. John thought providing money was enough, leaving me to handle the emotional support. His mother, Ariana, was always there, criticizing my parenting. She'd say I was spoiling Elias, insisting John never needed that kind of care. Despite her comments, I focused on raising Elias well. He grew into a thoughtful and independent man, a bright spot in our tense home. Things reached a breaking point when Ariana moved in without asking, claiming she was lonely. Her presence was suffocating. She criticized everything from my cooking to my clothes, hinting that John could have chosen a better partner. This new phase of my life was all about breaking free from years of control and finding myself again, a journey I was just beginning. Ariana's constant criticisms were hard to ignore, but what really shook me was discovering John's deception. I stumbled upon bank statements one day that revealed large amounts of money being spent from our joint account. It turned out this money was being wasted on Ariana's gambling addiction and John's secret indulgences. Whenever I tried to confront them about it, it led to heated arguments, with John always taking his mother's side. "She's my mom, Stella. She needs this," he'd insist, dismissing my concerns. The final straw came when I overheard them plotting to take full control of our finances, pushing me aside and leaving me powerless in my own home. That's when I realized I couldn't keep living under their control. The day I decided to leave, I promised myself I'd make them understand the pain they caused. My plan was simple but powerful, to challenge their egos and their control. I started by legally separating our finances, which shocked John. "What are you doing?" he demanded on the phone. "I'm protecting myself, something I should have done a long time ago," I replied calmly but firmly. Ariana's reaction was even more dramatic. "You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you," she screamed when she found out. But I didn't let it faze me. The time of me being submissive was over. Now I was setting my own rules, beginning their reckoning. After I took control of my finances, things got chaotic. John and Ariana showed their true colors through their anger. Their attempts to intimidate me with angry phone calls didn't work. "You think you're smart, Stella," John sneered over the phone. "You're nothing without me. You'll come crawling back." "Not a chance, John. I won't let you manipulate me anymore," I shot back, standing my ground. Ariana's threats were even harsher. "You'll regret this, Stella. You've ruined our family." "There was no family to ruin, Ariana. It was all fake," I countered. Despite their threats, I felt free. The fear that used to control me was gone, replaced by a determination for justice. It was time for them to face the consequences. I started by reaching out to old friends and telling them about the lies and manipulation John and Ariana had put me through. My honest revelation spread quickly, tarnishing their once spotless reputations. John, who always cared about his social standing, was embarrassed. "How could you do this to me?" he asked me, shocked. "You did it to yourself," I replied calmly. "I'm just telling the truth." Ariana faced the community's disapproval too. "You've made us outcasts," she accused, seeing it as a fight. But I wasn't afraid of her anymore. "No, Ariana, this isn't a fight. It's about being responsible for your actions," I told her. Seeing their social circles fall apart showed how powerful the truth can be. John's supporters distanced themselves, wary of his damaged reputation, while Ariana lost influence as her gambling problem and manipulative tactics were exposed. But I didn't stop at just exposing them socially. I knew their weak spot was their finances. With the help of a good lawyer, I fought for my fair share of our joint assets. Ariana's debts from gambling and John's mishandling of money were brought to light. The legal battles were tough, but I stayed strong. Their lies were no match for the truth, and I won a significant victory in court. When the judge ruled in my favor, I could see the defeat in John and Ariana's faces. This win meant more than just money. It showed that I was morally right. "You've destroyed everything, Stella," John said, sounding defeated. "No, John, you destroyed our family long ago. I'm just picking up the pieces," I replied, leaving the courtroom feeling free for the first time in years. I was filled with hope for a future without the weight of my past. After the court ruling, I started rebuilding my life with the assets that were rightfully mine. Stepping away from John and Ariana's influence, they couldn't believe the extent of their downfall. This was the start of a new chapter for me, one of independence and self-discovery, ready to embrace whatever came my way. The crumbling of John and Ariana's facades was just the beginning of my journey to rediscover myself and pursue real happiness and freedom. One evening, John called in a fit of desperation. "You can't just change our lives like this, Stella," he pleaded over the phone. "I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine," I replied firmly. "Maybe you should have thought about the consequences before betraying my trust." Ariana, however, took a sneakier approach. She tried to turn family members against me, painting herself as the victim. "You're tearing our family apart, Stella," she accused me when we bumped into each other at the grocery store. "This family was broken long before I left," I replied, refusing to show any sign of distress. I embraced my new freedom, enjoying the ability to control my own life. I cut off their access to me by changing my phone number and found comfort in volunteering at a local shelter, helping others who have faced similar struggles. But my fight for justice wasn't over yet. I found out Ariana planned to challenge the court's decision, hoping to get money for her gambling habit. "You won't win, Stella. I'll make sure you pay," she threatened in a message sent through a relative. In defiance, I strengthened my legal defenses, prepared to counter any challenge she brought forward. The person who once avoided conflict had become a determined advocate for her own rights. Meanwhile, John was crumbling under the pressure. His once spotless reputation was now tarnished, affecting his career. "You've destroyed everything, Stella," he admitted during a moment of reflection. "You brought this on yourself, John." "I just exposed the truth," I replied. As time passed, I watched as their seemingly stable lives fell apart. Ariana's attempt to overturn the court's decision failed, leaving her in financial and social ruin. John's professional life continued to decline, his reputation irreparably damaged. However, I didn't feel any joy in watching their downfall. Though it was an important part of reclaiming myself, it didn't bring me satisfaction. My journey was about healing and finding myself, far beyond their punishment. Regaining my independence and self-respect was a big step. But the wounds from neglect and emotional abuse were still healing. As I rebuilt my life, my main goal was to find inner peace and happiness. My journey was transformative, leading me out of the darkness of my past. I became stronger and more resilient. My story wasn't about revenge, but about freedom, a celebration of the human spirit's ability to overcome challenges. Months had gone by since the court ruled in my favor, but the effects lingered. John and Ariana had drifted from their social circles, shadows of their former selves. Then Elias visited unexpectedly with troubling news. Dad lost his job, and his drinking has gotten worse. Grandma lost everything to gambling. "They're selling the house," he said, the weight of his words palpable. My heart ached for Elias. Despite the distance, family ties tugged at my emotions. Did we do the right thing? Elias wondered quietly. I reassured him, though with a heavy heart. that we stood up for what was right. They made their choices. I didn't find satisfaction in John and Ariana's downfall. Instead, it reminded me of the importance of living with integrity and respecting others. In the following weeks, rumors spread about the sale of their house, signaling the end of their decline. John struggled to find work because of his damaged reputation, and Ariana was isolated as her addiction became known. One evening, I ran into John during a walk. He looked like a different person, defeated. "There's nothing to say," he finally said, defeated. This brief encounter was powerful. It showed how much our lives had changed because of the choices we made. It was here that I found true happiness, peace, and a sense of self that couldn't be shaken.
Hey everyone! I want to share a story about my mean mother-in-law and my not-so-great husband who didn't stand up for me. I'm going to use fake names to keep things private. Let's pretend my name is Peyton, my husband is Grant, and my mother-in-law is Joanne. There's also my grandma Lily, who helped me through tough times. Let me start from the beginning. Grant was a pretty good boyfriend. I loved him a lot and was excited when he proposed. But things got rough after that. Grant started showing signs that worried me. I found out he was super close to his mom, Joanne, as she had a lot of control over him. Joanne was the first problem. She lived with us and relied on Grant for everything. One day, she showed up with some papers and told me to sign them right away. "What are these papers for, Joanne?" I asked. "This is an ironclad prenup that you both need to sign. It says that in case of a divorce, neither of you can ask for anything from the other. Sign it now," she demanded. "Wait a minute. Did you make a prenup without talking to us? That's really embarrassing, Joanne." "Why would you do that?" I protested. "I did it so you can't take my son's things if you get divorced. You make less money than him, and this house belongs to him. We can't trust you not to try to take everything." "This is crazy, Peyton. I'm not as bad as you say. This is ridiculous. I won't sign a prenup like this. I feel offended." "You should have discussed this with us," I argued. "Actually, I know about the prenup. It's not a big deal, Peyton. If you're really not with me for money, you shouldn't have any problem signing this," Grant interrupted. I was surprised that Joanne and Grant had talked about it without telling me. I wasn't with Grant for money, but I hadn't told him about my inheritance yet. Grant and I argued for days, and Joanne kept insulting me for not signing the papers. Eventually, I turned to my grandma for help. She listened and said, "Are you sure you want to marry this man, Peyton? I don't think he's right for you. You two aren't even married yet, and he's already teaming up with his mother against you." "It's just this one issue, Grandma. I truly love Grant, and he loves me too. I can't imagine being with anyone else. He's a good guy," I defended. "Well, if you've already made up your mind, I suggest you go ahead and sign the prenup. I'll have my lawyer review it first, though. But I have one request. Don't tell anyone that your grandparents are wealthy. I haven't told them anything yet," Grandma advised. "But why shouldn't I tell them?" I asked. "I understand things better than you, Peyton. You're seeing them through rose-colored glasses. Your grandfather and I worked hard for this fortune. I don't want anyone taking advantage of you and stealing your money," Grandma explained. "You don't have to worry, Grandma. I won't tell him anything since you asked me not to. Plus, Grant is a good man, and he'd never do that. If his mother gets too much, I'm sure he'll protect his wife," I reassured. I was wrong, though. Grant was awful, and his mother was worse than I knew. I gave in and signed the prenup, and later realized it was a smart move. Right after we got married, Joanne started abusing me regularly. Even with the prenup, she verbally and sometimes physically abused me. I'm too ashamed to talk about everything she did. But I'll share one incident that was a turning point in my marriage. One day, when I got home from work, Joanne barged into my room with a smirk. She handed me a big bag of clothes and ordered me to wash them. I didn't argue because I was used to this treatment. I knew if I refused, she'd tell Grant, and then they'd both verbally abuse me. So, I picked up the heavy bag, even though it was tough for me. As I walked down the hall, Joanne purposely tripped me, and I fell. I hurt my ankle badly and screamed in pain. Joanne just laughed and left after giving me an ice pack for my ankle. I called Grant. "Grant, I fell and hurt my ankle. Your mother tricked me today. I've endured her abuse for too long. You need to do something. She's gone too far." "Don't make up stories about Mom, Peyton. She wouldn't do that. You just want her out of the house and don't want to do chores. Stop lying and saying bad things about my mom," Grant argued. I'm not lying, Grant. Please trust me. Don't ignore what I'm saying, I begged. Grant just hung up on me. He never defended me and always acted like I was the problem. I stayed quiet because I didn't want him to leave, but this time I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. I was secretly seeing a therapist with my grandma's help because their abusive behavior was too much to handle. It was clear I had to leave. What made me even angrier was Joanne sending me nasty texts, saying I deserved what she did, and Grant never standing up to her. I was furious. I decided I needed revenge, and the chance came later. When my grandma passed away, I was sad but also relieved because she was in a lot of pain. I couldn't bear seeing her suffer. I stayed strong, thinking she was finally at peace with my granddad. Grant didn't offer any support when she passed. He didn't even come to the funeral. But he found out I inherited $250 million. Yes, they were that wealthy. Grant was shocked. He suddenly started being really nice to me when we got home. The next day, I woke up to another surprise. Joanne was standing at the foot of my bed, looking at me sweetly. I was shocked to find her in my room, staring at me strangely. I didn't know what to make of it. I had a feeling something like this might happen, but seeing my abusive mother-in-law's face change was starting to creep me out. I said, "Why are you here, Joanne? No one told me you were coming today. And why were you staring at me while I was sleeping?" "Oh, I came early to help you with chores. I made you some tea, it's right by your bed." "I know how much you love tea, so I got a special batch for you," she said sweetly. "You didn't answer why you were in my room while I was sleeping. Honestly, Joanne, it's really creepy. I was just trying to massage your feet, Peyton. I know you hurt them when you fell carrying my laundry." "Your feet must be sore, so I thought I could help," she explained. "You're the one who tricked me that day, Joanne. How dare you come in here and try to massage my feet? Have you no shame?" I exclaimed. Now, don't overreact. It was just a mistake. I didn't have you fall or that the laundry was so heavy. I already massaged your foot to make up for it, didn't I?" she replied. "Do you really think massaging my foot makes up for all the abuse you've put me through? You're out of your mind, Joanne. Get out of my room. I don't want to see your face right now," I demanded. "All right, I'll be in the kitchen making you breakfast. You don't have to worry about a thing. I'll take care of everything, including making sure Grant has everything ready. You just take your time and freshen up," she said sweetly before leaving. Her sudden change of behavior left me feeling unsettled. Even as I lay there, I couldn't shake the feeling that she had invaded my privacy and was acting strangely. Money can make people do strange things, you know. Joanne is a perfect example. Grant must have told her to be nice to me to avoid any issues with my inheritance, which probably prompted her visit. But neither Grant nor Joanne knew that they wouldn't get their hands on my fortune. I had made sure of that. I got out of bed and dressed in my best clothes. It was my day for revenge, and I wanted to look my best. My therapy had been helping, and I finally had the confidence to stand up for myself. I went down to the kitchen with my bag in hand. Inside were some important documents I needed to send out today. I think you can guess what I was about to do. I found Grant and Joanne in the kitchen, looking very pleased and whispering to each other. When they noticed me, their smiles widened even more. Grant pulled out a chair for me while Joanne started preparing a plate for me. I said, "Why did you make breakfast today? I could have done it myself. You didn't have to go through the trouble." "It's no trouble at all, Peyton. I'm happy to do this for you. It's just breakfast. My mom can help out. You don't have to worry about any chores from now on. Once we sell the house and move to a mansion, I'll hire a housekeeper. Until then, my mother can take care of everything. I'll help her too. You think buying my medicines is a waste of money, but suddenly hiring a housekeeper is affordable for you. And how do you plan to buy a mansion? Robbing a bank lately?" I retorted. "Don't be absurd. We have enough money to do anything we want now." "You just inherited a lot from your grandmother," Grant replied confidently. "Yes, Grant's right. Finally, we're rich. We don't have to worry about money anymore. Your inheritance will last us a lifetime. We can do whatever we want now," Joanne added. "Yeah, I've been thinking about quitting my job. I was getting burnt out here anyway. Maybe we can take a vacation and have some fun. What do you think?" Grant added. I burst into laughter at their words. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It had only been a day since I got my inheritance and they were already making plans. They really thought I'd just hand over the money and let them do whatever they wanted. as if pretending to be nice would erase years of abuse from my husband and mother-in-law. Joanne and Grant looked uncomfortable with my laughter, trying to avoid eye contact. Maybe even they realized how ridiculous their plans sounded, holding on to the hope that I forgive them magically. After laughing for a moment, I said, "Wow, it's only been a day since I got my inheritance and already you're changing your tune so drastically. Money really does make a difference, doesn't it?" Let's not dwell on the past now. We had no idea this good fortune was coming our way. We would have treated you better if we knew. Keeping secrets from your husband and in-laws isn't right, Peyton. That was sneaky of you. Anyway, what should we do with all this money? I was thinking of buying a house and going on a Caribbean vacation. Don't just say house, Grant. Say mansion or villa. We could even get a penthouse. It would suit our new status better. We're millionaires now, after all. All my friends would be so jealous, Joanne added excitedly. I listened to their chatter and casually took out the documents I'd been hiding in my folder. Joanne and Grant looked at me expectantly, as if I was about to hand them papers saying all the money was now theirs, but they were in for a shock. I held the papers in my hand and said, "I need to correct you both. We're not millionaires. I am. The money is mine, and I inherited it." "Yes, you got the money, but we share everything. We're married, so you should share your money with me," Grant insisted. "And as your mother-in-law and your only family right now, you should share the money with me too. We're family after all. You're my daughter as much as Grant is my son," Joanne added. It's ironic how suddenly I've become your daughter, Joanne. Until yesterday, I was just a witch your son married. Anyway, don't get too carried away. We won't be family anymore. Not that we ever really were, I retorted. "What do you mean, Peyton?" "I'm your mother-in-law, so I am family," Joanne protested. "How could you be my mother-in-law when I won't be married to your son anymore? If Grant loses his title as my husband, you'll mean less than nothing to me," I replied firmly. "What's going on, Peyton? Why won't I be your husband anymore? What's this about?" Grant demanded. "Well, I filed for divorce. I did it the day after my grandma died. I won't be staying with you anymore, Grant. You're a terrible husband and don't deserve to be one," I declared. With that, I threw the divorce papers on the table. Grant and Joanne both read the papers to see if I was telling the truth. When they finished reading, their eyes widened in disbelief. They looked at each other with worry, realizing the seriousness of the situation. I guess they didn't think I'd have the courage to file for divorce. They said, "What's this, Peyton? Why are you filing for divorce? This doesn't make any sense. You think I'm weak enough to stay in an abusive marriage forever? Why are you surprised, Grant? I warned you this was coming. I told you the day Joan tricked me. My God, why are you still dwelling on the past? I've already apologized for it, and it's over. You need to be more forgiving. This isn't enough reason for a divorce. Mom has already made up for that," Grant argued. "So you, Joan, admit to tripping me and all you say is to get over it? Well, listen up, guys. I'm divorcing both of you and you won't get a penny of my inheritance. I can't believe I fell in love with such a horrible man like you, Grant. I'm ashamed I tried so hard to impress a monster like you, Joanne. But this abuse stops now. We're definitely getting a divorce, and we can do this the easy way or the hard way," I asserted. Suddenly, Grant and Joanne looked furious with me. I guess they didn't like being called out for their behavior. They knew I was serious about the divorce since I'd already filed for it. It wasn't a threat to get what I wanted. They were now willing to comply with my wishes because I had a lot of money. "What's the point of divorcing me, Peyton? You have more money than me because your inheritance is our marital asset. I'll get half of it anyway. You might have half, but most of it will be spent on the lawyer. Did you forget about the prenup we were forced to sign? Your dear mother-in-law can remind you of it. She insisted we sign it," Grant retorted. It suddenly hit them that they'd screwed themselves over. Back then, they never imagined I'd become a millionaire. They wanted to protect themselves because they knew no reasonable woman would stay with them after their abuse. The prenup was their way of avoiding consequences for their actions. But this time, they'd only hurt themselves. They'd dug their own graves. The prenup was in the past. I'll consult a lawyer and see what options we have. We won't let you walk away with all that money. You're just using this to threaten us. You can't do anything to us, Peyton. We'll take your money and do as we please with it," Joanne snapped. "So, you're planning to fight me in court? Don't worry, Peyton. We'll make this tough for you. You can't make decisions on your own. I'll fight you in court. You can't get divorced without my signature. Remember that?" Grant threatened. "Really, Grant? You're going to deliberately make things difficult for me? That's not a problem. I'm prepared for anything. I have some tricks up my sleeve," I countered. "What do you mean, Peyton?" Joanne asked nervously. "Joan, remember how you confessed to tripping me and abusing me in those texts? Well, I'll use them to file a report with the police. That could be quite an event, wouldn't you say?" I stated calmly. No, you can't do that. You can't do that to me. That's impossible. I'll delete all the texts. Don't worry," Joanne stammered. "Danon, I have all the texts saved and sent to some of my friends. Trust me, I'm perfectly capable of reporting you to the police. And I can also show how Grant knew and did nothing to help me. It'll be an uphill battle for you in divorce court," I threatened. Joanne and Grant immediately started apologizing profusely. They'd forgotten that I had the power to put Joanne in jail. They thought I'd moved on from the incident, but I'd been biding my time, waiting for the right moment to use it. Joanne and Grant were in deep trouble. They didn't know what to do. I took the divorce papers with me and left the house. I'd collect my things the next day. Grant and Joanne tried to stop me, saying, "Don't leave, Peyton. Let's sit down and talk about it. We can handle this like adults and not make any rash decisions. And where will you even go? You have to stay here anyway. Let's discuss it. I'm moving into my grandmother's house. It's already been transferred to my name. I'll be living there while I wait for Grant to decide on the divorce. I'm taking the papers with me so you can't damage them and force me to file again. And as for my belongings, I've taken pictures of everything. Don't even think about damaging or getting rid of anything," I replied firmly. Grant and Joanne continued trying to stop me, but I had already called a friend who was waiting for me outside. I got into her car and drove off with her. Grant and Joanne watched us from the door the whole time. After arriving at my new place, I contacted a moving company to bring my belongings from the house. In the following months, Grant and Joanne tried their best to change my mind, but I kept reminding them about going to the police. Since Grant hadn't signed the divorce papers, he talked to a lawyer who informed him that the prenup was solid and he had no way out. After being threatened by me multiple times, Grant was forced to sign the divorce papers. He didn't want his mom to go to jail, and he knew I would never give him another chance. Grant didn't take the divorce well and started blaming Joanne for causing problems between us. He believed she was the reason he missed out on becoming a millionaire. After numerous fights, he ended up kicking her out with nothing. Since Joan depended on Grant's money, she was left homeless and without resources. Last I heard, Joanne was in a homeless women's shelter, unsure of what to do next. I informed everyone about how awful Joanne and Grant are, so they've been isolated from others. No one really talks to them anymore. As for me, I'm enjoying my new life and watching the aftermath unfold. I still stay at my grandma's place because it holds sentimental value for me. With my inheritance, I've donated some money to women's help centers and plan to do more for them. The rest of the money has been invested and secured for my future family. I still work at my old job because I don't want to sit idle. Life is good so far, and I'm hopeful I'll meet someone who deserves me.
This time, let your brother have a baby. You can have another one later. I told my parents I was pregnant. Then my mom said something shocking. Zach and his wife Rosie, who can't have kids, want us to give them our baby for adoption. My parents always favored Zach and ignored me. The happy future I imagined with my first baby turned into sadness. I'm Olivia. I've been married to Walt for 3 years. We're happy and thinking about having a baby soon. But I haven't been close to my family because of issues with my parents and brother Zach. In our family house, my parents, Zach, and his wife Rosie all live together. Zach has been praised since he was little, excelling in school and landing a job at a big company, which he'll probably take over from Dad. Our parents have always adored him. I, on the other hand, didn't stand out academically and wasn't as good-looking, so I never felt that close to our parents. I often felt left out and lonely because Zach got so much attention. Mom especially favored him, always by his side and hardly ever paying attention to me. When she did talk to me, it was usually criticism. Zach followed Mom's lead and didn't treat me well either, so we never really got along. I felt like I didn't belong at home and became more and more isolated. Because of that, right after finishing high school, I moved out. My parents didn't seem bothered when I told them I was leaving. If anything, they seemed happy about it. After leaving, I found a job, and 3 years later, I married Walt, who was in the same class as me. I wanted to start my own family and find peace away from my parents' influence. I only go back home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't really want to, but my parents insist. They care a lot about appearances, and it wouldn't look good if their daughter never visited. So I put up with it and visit twice a year. I reluctantly went back this Thanksgiving, but my mother was as distant as ever. "You and your husband are still not that impressive," she said, dampening the festive atmosphere. She started being sarcastic right away. She only called us back to say such things. If she's going to be like this, she shouldn't even bother calling, I thought, trying to ignore her sarcasm. But she kept going. "We're worried about you. You two live so modestly. We always think you'll come asking for money. My family is pretty wealthy, but since I left, I've never asked for financial help. Walt and I manage fine on our own earnings. We even send them proper birthday gifts." "We would never do that," I quickly replied to her unfounded accusation. Then she said, "But you two are still earning modestly, right?" and turned to look at Walt next to me. "Walt, you're still at that detective agency, right? How long do you plan to stick with that questionable job? Aren't you embarrassed?" Indeed, Walt works as a detective, something she always mocks. She sees detective work as sketchy and inferior to regular jobs. As Walt tried to explain his job to her, Zach jumped in. "Mom, there's no point in even listening to that. Detective work is shady, something nobody respectable does. It's a job for people beneath us. The pay must be peanuts compared to mine," showing off his superiority. Zach shared her disdain for detective work, a sentiment we've heard since we got married. Walt stayed quiet, but I felt upset that his job was being dismissed outright. Walt has always been my support, understanding what my family is like since our college days. That's why he always joins me when we visit my parents, not wanting to leave me alone. Even though he knows it won't be pleasant, I still feel guilty about it. Like many visits before, this one ended on a sour note. Around that time, we decided to live modestly together, unaffected by my family's opinions. Something amazing happened in our 3rd year of marriage. I found out I was pregnant. I was thrilled to be expecting our first child. Knowing how my parents always put me down, I felt like I had to share the news with them, so I went to our family home to tell them. It had been a while since I visited outside of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my parents, Zach, and his wife Rosie were all there. But their reaction to my announcement caught me off guard. When my mother heard the news, she suddenly got loud. "How could you say that in front of Zach?" Her response was unexpected. I wasn't expecting congratulations, but this was different. I was confused by her mentioning Zach, and when I looked puzzled, she dropped a bombshell. "Zach and Rosie can't have kids. How could you be so insensitive?" I had no clue they were dealing with infertility. Shocked by her words, I glanced at them. Zach seemed uncomfortable, and Rosie looked down sadly. "You're having a baby before Zach. If it wasn't for Rosie, this wouldn't be happening." My mother sighed dramatically, looking between Rosie and me. Seeing this, Zach stepped in. "Rosie already feels bad enough. Don't be too hard on her, Mom." I was surprised to hear him defend Rosie. From what I knew from my visits, Zach wasn't usually that supportive of her. "You're really kind, Zach." Then Zach said something that made me pause. "Rosie, if it weren't for being married to Zach, you would have been divorced by now." My mother shot Rosie a glare. Maybe despite everything, Zach does care about his wife. As I watched Zach calm our mother down, I thought about what had just happened. Well, I shared my news, so I should head home, I said, feeling the tension rise because of my announcement. But then my mother said something unbelievable. "Give your baby to Zach." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Give my baby to Zach. Why should I? I can have another baby if I want to. Just because Rosie can't have children doesn't mean I should give mine away. That's unfair and ridiculous. When I refused, my mother argued, "This is our first grandchild. It should be raised by us. Zach will take over the company, so we should raise the baby." Her words made me furious. She was planning to take my unborn child just to ensure a successor for our father's company. She talked about adoption like she had it all planned out, but I was too angry to listen. I was already irritated, and then Zach said something shocking. "Well, since Rosie can't have kids, it's good for her that you got pregnant. You're finally doing something for the family." I couldn't believe it, but Zach seemed to agree with my mom. Even Dad, who usually stays quiet, nodded along. It felt like the whole family was claiming my baby as their own. I couldn't believe how casually Zach spoke to his own wife like that, acting like it was no big deal. I realized there was no point in arguing further, so I left right away. All they said was, "Give us an answer next time you come," and didn't even come to say goodbye. Rosie, who must have been hurt, silently watched me leave. Even after I got home, I couldn't shake off my anger. Instead of celebrating my pregnancy, they made this unreasonable demand. I felt gloomy thinking about the future. They'd probably keep pushing for adoption even after the baby was born. When I told Walt what happened after he got back from work, he was shocked too. Even he couldn't find the words to respond. He knows my family, but this was beyond belief. A few days later, we were surprised by an unexpected visitor at home. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" "It's rare to see you alone," I said to Rosie. She looked tired, with dull skin and messy hair. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at us. "Olivia, I'm really sorry about what happened the other day," she said, referring to when I announced my pregnancy. It wasn't her fault, but she seemed burdened by the unreasonable demands my family had made. Then she said she had something important to discuss. "What is it?" I asked, inviting her in to talk. What she told me was shocking, and my anger flared up again. Trying to stay calm, she shared a significant truth with me. Walt had been quietly listening to our conversation and then chimed in with something equally astonishing and infuriating. Rosie's tears started again as she listened to Walt. With this new information from both of them, I made a decision. I vowed to myself to hold my parents and Zach accountable, to settle past grievances and seek justice. 3 months later, with my belly starting to show, Walt and I visited my family home. My parents, Zach and Rosie, were there. Without even a greeting, my mother asked, "You've decided to give the baby to Zach, right?" It seemed like she couldn't think of anything else. As I said before, that's not happening. I replied, but my parents glared at me as if they couldn't accept it. "No matter what you say, we're taking that baby. Stop being stubborn," my mother said, clearly angered by my refusal. Zach and my father just watched, not intervening. "No matter how much you insist, I'll never give the baby away. But I came here today to show you something." "Is that okay, Rosie?" I asked, looking at Rosie, who nodded silently. Rosie intends to divorce Zach, and this is why. I pulled out some photos from an envelope I had brought. That was the reason for my visit today. Zach was speechless as he looked at the photos. They clearly showed him kissing another woman and entering a hotel. Undeniable proof of his infidelity. "Shocked to have been caught," he muttered. "Who took these photos?" Our parents, standing next to Zach, looked bewildered, their gaze shifting between him and me. They probably had no idea about his affair. "It was Walt who took these," I said. Walt, who had been silently observing, explained how he had come across the photos. As a detective, he had seen Zach with another woman while working on a case. Out of curiosity, he investigated further and found out about Zach's affair. The decisive moment was captured in those photos, as Zach thought he had cleverly hidden his affair. He was stunned and speechless. "Adultery is grounds for divorce. You need to compensate Rosie properly," I said, breaking the tense silence. But Zach, instead of apologizing, blamed Rosie for his actions. "Yeah, it's your fault, Rosie. You're so incompetent. I'm just having a little fun outside," he said, with our mother backing him up, trying to shift the blame away from Zach. Seeing Rosie treated like I once was made me feel terribly sorry for her. So I decided to confront my family to save both of us. I pushed them further by pointing out Zach's faults. "Zach, you mocked Walt, but a professional detective's skills are extraordinary." Evidence kept piling up as soon as he started investigating. "And we found out something shocking about your mistress," I said, watching my parents tense up, wondering what would come next. "The woman you're seeing seems to be the daughter of a mafia boss," I revealed, watching Zach freeze in shock. He must not have known that. My mother screamed. "What? Is that true?" Upon hearing the revelation, she collapsed to the ground, covering her face, while my father looked terrified. "Zach, you were pretending to be single, right?" I asked, and Zach started to panic. "No, I didn't know either." Our parents, who had been so authoritative just moments ago, were now completely bewildered by this unexpected revelation. Then Rosie spoke up amidst the confusion. "You didn't just deceive your mistress, did you?" Her words brought tension back into the room. She repeated what she had told me during her visit. "You're infertile, aren't you?" Zach's face betrayed a look of realization. Our parents stared at him in shock. They had blamed Rosie for their infertility issues, but the truth was it was Zach himself. "Did you know, Rosie?" That was all he could manage to say. Our stunned parents struggled to find their next words, visibly shaken by the revelation. Rosie delivered the final blow. I found out accidentally while cleaning the room. She had stumbled upon his infertility diagnosis hidden in his desk drawer. Unable to admit it to his loving parents, Zach had kept this fact a secret and blamed Rosie for their infertility. Believing his words, our parents had unfairly blamed Rosie. His protective comments about Rosie when I announced my pregnancy were probably driven by his guilt over the issue. Blamed for something she had no control over, Rosie suffered every day. As the conversation turned to the topic of taking my child, Rosie spoke with a calm, unchanged expression. Meanwhile, my parents, just learning the shocking truth, were in a panic. "To think Zach will never have a child, that's just," my mother began, despairing at the thought of not having a grandchild. But then she turned her hysterical anger towards him. "You knew it was your fault, yet you blamed your wife. Did you cheat because you knew you were infertile? How could my son stoop so low? Oh dear, why did this happen?" She vented her frustration at him. Finally, Zach spoke, offering a pitiful explanation. "I was shocked to find out I was infertile. I felt guilty for not giving you a grandchild. When I found out Olivia was pregnant with a boy, it just seemed convenient." His words filled me with contempt. Pushing aside my anger, I delivered the final blow to the three of them. "Your selfish actions hurt Rosie and me. And Zach, you had an affair with such a dangerous person. Mom and Dad, you'll have to face the consequences of your actions. You've hurt so many people, now it's time to face the music." My words prompted them to apologize, their earlier bravado gone. Where did that confidence go when you asked me to give up my son? I looked at them with disdain, feeling as though I was looking at garbage. Beside me, Rosie remained silent, her gaze fixed ahead, silently conveying the depth of her sorrow. Tough times lay ahead for Zach and my parents. When the father of Zach's mistress discovered the affair, they were summoned and forced to apologize repeatedly. Despite ending the affair, Zach had to pay a hefty compensation for deceiving the woman. The amount was staggering, teaching them the harsh consequences of getting involved with such people. As a result, our family home descended into chaos. My father had to step down as company president due to the public scandal, and my mother became isolated, shunned by the neighbors, and withdrawing into herself. Their relationship became hostile, constantly arguing over Zach's actions. Zach lost his job after the scandal reached his company, and to add to his troubles, his divorce with Rosie was finalized. Struggling with unemployment and financial burdens, Zach found himself trapped in a cycle of relentless work. Around the time Rosie successfully left the family home, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Both the baby and I were in good health, and I reveled in the joy of welcoming new life. Our family of three embarked on happy days together. Eventually, Walt and I made the decision to sever all ties with my family. Although I have been torn about cutting off contact with my parents and brother, that incident made me realize it was the best decision for my son's well-being. Despite their absence, I have found solace and love in my irreplaceable family. From now on, I choose to cherish only my precious family.